it's really interesting that some companies still try to do that instead of just being as open and transparent as possible. But I think that goes into the legacy of this industry in that, I've talked about it a lot, particularly with speakers at the MIM Expo. So this was the second year we previously ran it, the MIM Expo, in November. And just to get those people to speak, even now, some of them had to really work hard with their comms or PR department, get senior sign-off, and we work with them. And I think there's been a legacy of just saying, no, this can't be talked about outside the company, which goes to some way as to why you might see that kind of behavior ingrained there, because people are so used to being told, no, we don't talk about this. But it's definitely more damaging than being more open and transparent.
It 100% is. And you're right. It goes back to those, do your processes own you? Or do you own your processes, and do they make sense now? But we've been talking a lot about like external communication. One of the things that is incredibly important is internal communication, and we call it stakeholder communication here at PagerDuty. So you can subscribe to receive communication, and stakeholder comms are really important because they will reduce the chaos on a major incident call. Because come on, executives will hop on. And they will say, I want information. I want it now. Stop what you're doing. Get me a list of affected customers, whatever it is. We have a little term for it. It's called executive swoop and poop here at PagerDuty. But that is a direct result of your stakeholders, of your internal folks not being informed of what's going on during an incident as well. And that just makes it that much worse. And so when you think about notifying your internal teams, you want to provide those proactive updates like regarding the status of a major incident, because it gives that more consistent understanding of the current incident and that broader real-time awareness, and it allows for the more consistency with those incident narratives that you are sharing externally, right? And so that reduces that chaos within an organization, even for those folks that are not on a call. So I think that it's also really important to not just think about the external communications, but also how are you talking to your folks internally? Like, we're very, very open with what we do here at PagerDuty. We have an incident war room that anybody can join. Anybody can actually join the incident call. They should just join it quietly if they have nothing to contribute to the resolution of that. But the war room, anybody can go in and look for the updates as to what's going on in that incident. So keeping your organization informed is key. You don't want a salesperson going out there trying to demo something when maybe the environment is down and they're demoing to one of their biggest clients, you know?
You were saying about the stakeholder piece, and I think it's really interesting that I talk about this a lot. There's some common challenges that pop up, and I'm going to borrow your term, that swoop and poop. I think that's brilliant. All of that manifests in loads of different ways across the three phases, but predominantly it all stems from confidence. And when you talk about extreme ownership, if you're a major incident manager or in your terms an incident commander, stakeholder management and their confidence is completely down to you. And if you don't get that right and consistent, even if it's good, it's not consistent, they feel that there's nervousness, and particularly people of the personality types of particularly DEEF dominance within the DISC framework that we talk about, which you find a lot of senior executives tend to lean towards. There seems to be a bias of whether that's why they're successful or it's just a byproduct. So those people are probably going to be quite dominant. They come in, they're used to fixing things, they understand the commercials, but typically they're not really contributing to anything meaningful in terms of resolution. You can see technical people pulled away from the call for one-on-one chats, particularly if they have good relationships with senior leadership. And it all just extends the time. And it's really interesting because one of the things you see, even if the rest of a major instance managed well, is if you don't nail the initial internal comms well, even if you do a good job throughout, you still tend to see stakeholder interference in a less than positive way. Whereas obviously, and that can happen the other way around. You can get the start right and perhaps lose control of something, and people feel and see that. And so we talk about major incident managers not just thinking about resolving a major incident. And I think it was ITIL, and it's been seen elsewhere. It used to be resolving a major incident as quickly as possible via workaround or resolution. Well, in version 3 of our framework and what we teach, we've added in whilst maintaining stakeholder confidence. And that sounds like such a minor change, but actually it's a whole fundamental concept of you rethinking what your job is. You're not purely there just to run the incident. You are there to maintain stakeholder confidence, which in turn feeds back into the major incident. So I think it's a really important point that you make, really, really important. And I think something that's quite underrated and not always understood in the context that it should. Sometimes people feel that senior leadership are perhaps interfering or being difficult. Well, actually, it's probably, if you're the person running the major, it's probably your fault, and you need to take ownership, and there are ways that you can deal with that.